Hi everyone, this is Paul here from the Magdalene Centre. Today I'm doing an astrology report for the month of September, outlining some of the key aspects and dates for the month, along with the overriding themes that will be unfolding, and giving a basic explanation as to what kind of lessons are available to learn for the month. Before I do that though, I just want to clarify that the astrology doesn't control our lives, it merely outlines the kind of natural progression of the energies around us, the kind of lessons that are unfolding, and it helps us to understand what's unfolding around us so we can then work with it rather than trying to fight against it. But it requires that we actually participate in the process. It doesn't just happen to us, we actually have to participate, otherwise nothing actually changes. Now with September, this is the month about this is all about the harvest. So Virgo is the first key part of it. So the sun will be in Virgo from the 1st to the 23rd, and this is all about harvest. So the various actions or goals that we set for ourselves early in the year are now coming to a natural fruition. We can also see this in places like here at the allotment, where the crops that were sown early in the year are now coming to maturity and it's time to harvest. But obviously it's also time of separating the wheat from the chaff, so it's taking what is useful and leaving the rest. So we're only taking with us what is actually of practical use and discarding anything else that is no longer holds any value or no longer serves us at this point in time. And this same process is going on internally, so it's looking at what lessons can be learned at this time, based on the goals that we set for ourselves and where we are now. It's reflecting on this and seeing what have we learnt in this period, what kind of wisdom have we gained through experience, what goals have we set for ourselves that have turned out well and performed well, and which areas have we kind of struggled in or not really achieved the results that we were hoping for. And it's not judging the results we get, it's assessing to see what lessons can we learn from the end result, what wisdom can be gained from it. There's no point judging the results because it is what it is. Whatever we've achieved so far is a result of our past actions. So this is a time of assessing the end result and seeing if things have gone well, then obviously appreciating that, but where things have struggled, it's identifying what may have been the reason or what actions have been taken that may have undermined the goal or stopped it unfolding naturally, and what can we learn about it and how can we do things differently next time. So it's being honest with ourselves and having an objective analysis of our end results and the ultimately the fruits of our labours, and seeing what can we learn from it or what have we already learned from it, and how can we do things differently in the future, whilst making sure that we don't judge ourselves in the process. This also applies to, because Virgo also deals with our habits, our routines and our overall health. Virgo is about maintaining our health, so this is about physical and mental health. So this may also be a time where we evaluate what kind of foods do we put into our bodies, do we get much exercise, or do we take the necessary actions to maintain our body through exercise and to making sure we get adequate rest so we don't burn the body out. And it's seeing if we're not particularly healthy or our diet isn't conducive to good health, what changes do we need to make to bring better order to the body? What can we do to improve our diet? So it could be eating more fruit and veg if we don't really do that. For some of us it could be trying to get more exercise, and for some of us it's more about the need to undergo some kind of stress management, or recognising where do we constantly stress ourselves out through excessive worrying, anxiety, over-analysing things. Because whilst Virgo is an analytical sign, it can go overboard if we're not careful, and when it goes overboard, the inner critic can then flare up. We end up criticising things and criticising ourselves, and then that leads to trying to point a finger of blame at something, even if it's at ourselves. And this isn't a particularly healthy way to do things. We need to make sure that throughout the entire harvest time, where we're reaping the fruits of our labours, that when things haven't turned out well for us, or we realise that we haven't done the best we could have done, we need to make sure that we go easy on ourselves. We remember to be kind to ourselves, and whatever flaws or weaknesses we've identified or any mistakes we made in the past, it's learning from them and accepting them unconditionally, so we don't judge ourselves for having made an incorrect decision at some point in the past. We recognise where things have gone wrong, we gain wisdom from that, and then we move on from it. So we let go of it once we've identified the lesson, if you like, or understood what we need to learn from it, so that we can do things better next time round. And then this leads into Libra, when the sun at the autumn equinox. So on the 23rd, the sun moves into Libra, where we have equal light and dark on the equinox, but the nights here in the northern hemisphere, the nights are starting to get longer, and the amount of daylight is shortening. And around this time, we start to see everything around us in terms of the natural world starting to power down. There's no longer enough light to warrant trying to go full steam ahead. Now's the time to start turning inwards, to conserve energy rather than constantly expending it, and to harvest what's left to be harvested, to keep. And this is obviously symbolised at the harvest moon on the 25th, where this is a full moon in Aries, so we're seeing the fruits of the labours that we started at the new moon in Aries about 5 to 6 months ago. And it's a time of turning inwards. It's a time of reflection and learning to balance our light and shadow sides. So with Libra being all about the other, this is also a time of seeing where are parts of our sense of self being reflected back to us that we're not yet aware of. So in some cases we might meet someone and their presence inspires us, what they're doing inspires us, because they demonstrate the positive positive manifestations of our untapped potential. And then we may have other people that instantly trigger our shadow. It's not because the person's necessarily got anything wrong with them, but they may be freely expressing something that we don't currently like about ourselves. And if we're not careful, we can end up projecting all of our shadow qualities onto other people, and then we don't grow. So a key part of Libra is about taking all those projections back, of going inwards and learning to face our own shadow and accept it and bring it into balance with our light, so that our shadow side isn't controlling us. In terms of key dates for the month, we've got the Saturn will be turning direct on the 6th, so this brings an end to the Saturn retrograde and time of forward motion. So whatever we've learned during the Saturn retrograde we now need to apply, but as Saturn turns retrograde, we may feel a sudden burst of energy as such, but it's important that we don't rush into things. Saturn turning direct is a bit like the point where a butterfly starts to emerge out of its chrysalis again. It's that Saturn retrograde is a deep transformation where old worn out structures need to be broken down inside us, and as it turns direct, we have a new understanding of authority, and ideally we should be moving towards a point where we have that internal authority rather than relying on other people for all the answers. But it's important that we don't allow the ego to suddenly rush ahead. It's that slow push through to make sure that if you've ever seen how butterflies grow, they need that struggle to push the fluid into their wings. If they get it easy, then they're not able to fly. So we may suddenly find ourselves having to push through things or trying to get out of that cocoon again, but it's not a case of rushing. It's allowing things to unfold naturally and pushing where necessary, and then going with the flow when it's not a wise idea to push, and understand the difference between the two. and it's allowing ourselves to become stronger and have a greater degree of personal integrity as a result. The next day is the 9th. We have the Virgo new moon. This gives us an opportunity to set new intentions around areas like our physical health, so like diet, exercise, and also mental health. So dealing with stress patterns, learning to tame the inner critic through embracing unconditional self-love and self-acceptance. But Virgo is also about self-mastery, so it's seeing where can we take our existing skill sets and hone them and master them so we can provide a better service than what we're currently capable of doing. But obviously I'll go do another video on this separately. I won't go into too much detail now. We've already covered the next two events, i.e. the Sun moving into Libra and full moon. The next one is Chiron on the 26th. We'll backtrack into Pisces. So this marks a shift from focusing on the I am and seeing where do we use negative self-talk. So where do we typically use, after the words I am, are we using positive self-talk? Or are we just talking ourselves down and saying things like I'm not good enough, I'm stupid, or anything like that? And if we are, it's changing that. But with it moving into Pisces, we're now having our last review of seeing where we have wounds of disconnection that cause us to engage in addictive tendencies. So it's looking at where do we indulge in things like drugs, alcohol. In some cases it's excessive working, so workaholism. Do we eat too much sugar? Do we engage in excessive sleep to try and escape from reality? So seeing where do we have escapism tendencies and learn to heal them through becoming present again and learning to connect with universal love, to recognise that we've cut ourselves off from that universal flow and that universal love. It's not separated from us, we've separated from it. We'll have the capacity to reconnect with it. And the last event is going to be Pluto turning direct, so whatever we've learned about our shadow issues, our relationship with power, do we secretly covet it or are we afraid of it? And it's applying these insights to our lives now. Otherwise, if we don't apply what we've learned, then the entire retrograde period is wasted. So there's quite a bit going on this month, but the main things to remember are this is a time to reflect on what growth we've undergone this year, reflect on the fruits of our harvest, so seeing what results are coming back to us now. Have certain goals gone better than others, and if so, it's analysing what caused some of the goals that we set for ourselves to manifest really well, and where have we maybe forgotten to do something which has affected other areas. And this is also time for paying attention to our health, to make sure that we're nurturing our bodies with the right nutrients and sufficient exercise to keep the body strong, and we're nurturing our minds through transforming our self-talk so that it's not constant barrage of self-criticism that leads to judging others as a coping mechanism. It's being honest with ourselves but loving with ourselves. And then as the sun moves into Libra, it's taking that inward journey, it's starting to power down, because that's the natural where the energies go this time, and it's starting to move into that inward journey rather than the outward journey. So there's a lot to take on board, but this month holds enormous potentials for growth for us, have a lot of potential for lessons. It's going to be a very changeable month, so it's important that we go with the flow when we need to and only push for things when it's necessary. And it's having the wisdom to recognise the difference between the two. So the more we kind of allow things to unfold naturally and make the necessary changes that we identify, and let go of or cut away the chaff from our lives, so that we're only taking with us what we actually need and removing anything that's superfluous, and we identify where can we make sure that our bodies and minds are nurtured and given the right nutrients so that we maintain or become as strong as possible, because the stronger we are, the better able we are to help other people. It's because when we're strong, then we're better able to help other people without being drained by it, and the more we can connect with unconditional love at the same time and allow it to flow through us constantly, the less drained we'll be through having to help other people. It's not our personal energy reserves now. It's a higher level of energy flowing through us that helps others. And the more we do this, the more we can achieve a degree of personal healing, physically and mentally, and this makes us better able to help other people. So may September be a month of much growth and many wonderful fruits to your labours, and may it also should bring you much practical wisdom through evaluating what's gone well and where do we need to make changes to how we approach things so that we can achieve better results in the future. Because the more we learn from because the thing is, we only ever fail when we stop trying. Because as the old acronym goes, fail means first attempt in learning. If we let go of the fear of failure and we instead embrace things as opportunities to learn, we can make much greater progress moving forward in our lives, and we're also more likely to be kind on ourselves if we see things as a learning opportunity rather than just a failure and a damning indictment as we're not good enough. If we have a growth mindset and we seek to become the best versions of ourselves through honestly assessing where things have gone well and where things haven't, but not judging ourselves where things haven't gone as well as planned, and then making sure that we radiate kindness towards other people. So if the inner critic when the inner critic rises at all and starts criticising ourselves, or we find ourselves beginning to criticise other people, it's take that breath, become present again, because if we're becoming critical, we're not actually present. We're either obsessing over the past or being anxious about the future. It's breathe, get grounded again, and rather than spewing any words of criticism towards ourselves or others, it's taking that moment to see, are the words going to be kind, or is it going to just cause pain and not going to help the other person? And if it's just going to be hurtful, then have the wisdom to recognise that and just maintain our silence and focus on making sure that any words that we give to other people, any kind of how we wish to offer, is done through love rather than judgment. And the more we do this, the easier things become, and the more likely people are to respond to our feedback positively, because it's given in the spirit of love and not judgment. So may September bring you many blessings and many key lessons and much growth. Take care and be blessed.